If you enjoy my narrations, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It costs nothing. Now let's get into the story. It's no secret that major cities struggle with pigeon problems, and Toronto was no exception. Much like rats during the Middle Ages, these disease-carrying vermin had spent the past decade running rampant and multiplying. My job was to try and control Toronto's ever-growing pigeon population. Luckily, I stumbled across an article about a pilot project where researchers swapped out pigeon eggs for wooden replicas. The birds in turn spent months tending to the fake eggs instead of producing more. The project had been a massive success, drastically lowering pigeon numbers in a short time. It seemed like the perfect plan, so I rolled it out in my city. But what I hadn't planned for was those fake eggs actually hatching and unleashing the abominations inside. One morning, Clint, my partner, walked in carrying a large wooden crate with straw jutting out of every crack. "Looks like Christmas came early," he said. "What's this stuff?" I asked, walking over excitedly to help him lower the box onto a workbench. "This," I said, prying open the crate to show him what was inside, "is the solution to our pigeon problem." I reached inside and grabbed one of the eggs. I felt a twinge of disappointment. They weren't wooden as promised. Instead, they were thin, light, and hollow, like cheap plastic Easter eggs. Not what I expected. That's what I get for ordering from two, I thought. Clint scooped up a handful. "These are the replicas you ordered? They don't feel anything like the real thing." We knew exactly what real pigeon eggs felt like. Up until now, the only way to slow their population was to sneak into nests and steal the eggs. A futile, temporary fix because the birds would just lay more once they noticed theirs were gone. That's why the substitution idea was brilliant. "That's fine, Clint," I said. "They don't have to fool us. They just need to fool the pigeons. This will work. Trust me," and I was right. The pigeons fell for it completely. Within a few months, the number of young birds began to drop noticeably. I was proud of what I'd achieved. A safe, environmentally friendly way to handle these flying rats for only a few $100 and some elevator rides to the top of high-rises. But the problem started about 3 months in. Clint and I were checking nests on opposite sides of the city when my phone rang. "Yo," I said, pressing it to my ear as the elevator climbed. I could hear wind whipping on his end. He'd already reached the rooftop. "Hey, some of our eggs broke," he said. The elevator door slid open. I stepped out and headed for the stairwell to the roof. "We'll just replace them." "It's no big deal," I said casually. A few violent storms had hit since our last check. I figured the eggs must have fallen from nests and shattered. "This is why wooden would have been better," I muttered as I stepped out onto the rooftop. "Well?" I said into the phone. "What?" Clint replied. "Most of my eggs are broken too," I told him. The strange thing was they were still sitting neatly in the nests, right where we'd left them. Had the pigeons figured out our trick and destroyed them? Or were the eggs too flimsy for Canadian weather? "Same here," I groaned. "We're going to have to start over." Clint chuckled. "It's all good. We'll hatch a new plan." I paused. "Did you just look at the sunny side up of things?" He cut in. "Puns. At a time like this?" "Don't yoke with me," I sighed. We couldn't leave the nests empty for long or all our progress would vanish. I sent Clint to replace the broken eggs with what remained from our original order. Meanwhile, I searched online for actual wooden eggs. But the cheapest, fastest seller was still the same person we'd ordered from before. Our budget was tight and time was short, so I decided to buy the subpar eggs one more time. If they lasted long enough to prove our plan worked, I could convince city officials to boost our funding for better supplies next year. To be sure pigeons weren't attacking the eggs, I installed a security camera on one rooftop. I doubted they were smart enough to catch on. But still, the whole project would fail if they weren't fooled. So better to keep watch. Over the next few weeks, strange reports started coming in about animals behaving oddly. I ignored them at first. They sounded insane. One woman swore she'd seen a pigeon climbing a tree like a squirrel. Another report described a chipmunk attacking and killing a neighborhood dog. Someone else found only a cat's pelt after investigating an injured cat call. By the 5th report, I was getting uneasy. What really troubled me was these reports weren't isolated. They came from all over Toronto and its suburbs, a huge area. It couldn't be rabies or some localized disease. Something else was going on. I was about to start researching when Clint stormed in, scowling. "They broke." "Those shitty eggs broke again," he grumbled, collapsing into his chair. I forced a grin. "Hey, crack a smile. Well, that's a decent pun. He chuckled weakly, tossing his worksheet aside. Did you bring the footage? I asked. He pulled an SD card from his coat pocket. Got you covered. Movie time. We loaded it up. Pigeons. Pigeons sitting on nests, preening, flapping at each other. A squirrel chased away by birds. More pigeons. It had to be the dullest security tape on Earth. Even David Attenborough couldn't make it interesting. We fast-forwarded through days of pigeon footage. They never once attacked our fake eggs. Clint dozed off while I kept myself awake on coffee. Then something finally happened on screen. It was the middle of the night. One bird flew off its eggs and perched at the edge of the nest, peering down. This is it, I thought, leaning closer. I expected it to attack the egg. Instead, the egg cracked open from the inside. My jaw dropped. Impossible. They were just plastic shells. The only explanation was we'd missed a real egg. But baby pigeons don't look like smoke. A puff of dark air drifted out of the shell. The pigeon inhaled it. It froze, then fell over and began thrashing violently like it was seizing. Some chunky liquid spewed from its beak and evaporated instantly. Its body deflated like a balloon, leaving a limp husk. Then its chest bulged and the thing reinflated. But wrong. Its wings were swollen and angled strangely. Its neck was huge compared to its stomach. Its whole shape was unnatural, like a pelt draped over the wrong frame. It jerked its head toward the ledge, twisted onto its back, its legs bending grotesquely to touch the ground. Little stump-like arms pushed from its throat, clawing at the cement. In jagged, twitching movements, it skittered over the edge and vanished. I sat frozen. I watched the footage over and over before waking Clint. His disgust mirrored mine. "This is bad," he said. "I know," I replied. We went home, hoping sleep would clear our minds. Maybe it was a trick of the light. Unlikely, but we could hope. The next morning, Clint was already at work, eyes glued to the screen. "You watching it again?" I asked. "Not exactly," he muttered. I leaned closer. "You kept going?" "Oh, yeah. 2 days left on the footage," he said. "Did you see more?" "Oh, yeah, and—" "Some of them came back." He pointed at a nest on screen, his hand trembling. The eggs inside were too big, neither real nor replicas. "It laid them," he whispered. A chill crept up my spine. I thought of the reports. Were the eggs behind it all? "I think we need to call the authorities," I said. "We're the authorities," he replied, panicked. Before I could answer, another report came in, this time a deer. A woman described seeing it slither along a riverbank, its body sideways but its head upright. Oh, God. Whatever these things were, they were affecting larger animals. Then I heard a crack from Clint's desk. A puff of smoke drifted up from a split shell. Without a word, Clint bolted to the bathroom, hand over his mouth. I dropped the phone and ran to the door, locked. "Clint, you okay?" Silence. Then violent retching, wet, gurgling noises like boiling water. Terrified, I shoved a heavy workbench against the door. The sound stopped. Was he lying flat like the pigeon? Would he morph into something else? Then bang. He hurled himself at the door, over and over. The workbench inched away. I pushed back with all my weight. My only thought, don't let him out. The noise stopped. Relief, maybe he'd died. But then, crash. The window. I'd forgotten the bathroom window. He's out there now. Him and the others. Most of them probably look like pigeons. But they could be anyone, anything. There were over 700 of those cursed eggs around Toronto. And now I know they can reproduce. God knows how many more are out there.